with all the big calls on all the big races. Welcome back to another What a Shout. Dave Orton, thrilled to be back with you. Filmed on a Friday morning, somewhere in the capital. The weekend feature show from the Racing Post with our sponsors Bet365. Well, it's all changed, isn't it, out there? The sun is shining, it's balmy again, racegoers going back everywhere, but it's Doncaster this time. And of course, the Dubai World Cup meeting. There is some jumps action as well at Kelso, but we will be switching our attentions to the flat. If you're watching and you want to get involved in the chat, like and subscribe. All important, that is. Anything on Facebook, let us know you're out there. And hashtag What a Shout on Twitter. Right, he's here, he's there, he's been everywhere. It's Paul Kealy, and he's back. How are you, Kills?
Hey, I had a massive culture shock on Monday when I realised I've got to look at flat racing. What's going on?
Did you have cold turkey?
A little bit, yeah. So what were these horses?
Yeah. You spent all week down in Cheltenham. We saw you doing some great work on some other shows. You were in and among them. I heard from our colleagues that were down there, people could not get enough photos with you. You're adoring public.
It was ridiculous. I always find it a little bit weird, like, you know what I mean? But you always stop to talk to people. And I had one guy come up to me in the Guinness tent, and he said, "Just wanted to thank you for Marie's Rock." I said, "What are you on about? I haven't even mentioned it. I haven't tipped it. I haven't done anything. I've lost money on the race." Like, you know. And he went, "Yeah, but you were all over it 2 years ago when it was a novice." I said, "What?"
Is that right?
It's the weirdest thing that ever. But, you know, I just remember you were all over it for a race at Cheltenham, so I backed it today. You know what I mean? It's mad.
But I thought you were going to say it was What a Shout, because you had Nicky on, of course,
It's
didn't
great. I mean, the vast majority of racing people are lovely people.
Yeah.
And they want to stop to have a chat. You should give them a bit of time, shouldn't you? So I tend to do that.
A great week. Slightly frustrating for you?
Oh, I mean, you know, last year, virtually everything I tipped and back ran terrible until the last race when I had a winner. This year, most of the horses I backed ran really good races. I just couldn't get one over the line until, again, the very last race.
Yeah.
But, you know, on the Thursday, I had seconds in all three handicaps. Then I had a second in the county hurdle on the Friday. And finally booted one home with Banbridge in the last. But I had places in all sorts of races.
I can imagine that was a bit of a cheer if the voice was left, was it?
Yeah, it was. I had a good old roar. And, you know, my best mate walked out the pub because he'd backed the second. You know, and he'd had a frustrating time as well. Like, you know, it was just, it was one of them. It was great racing, though, you know, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I did, you know, I got out of there Friday morning.
Yes. There is only one Cheltenham Kills, isn't there? And it didn't disappoint.
No, it was fantastic racing. Some, you know, really, really good horses, some good stories, some bad, you know, hard luck stories. Yeah, you know, Willie Mullins has 10 winners, but he has yet another last fence fallen when it's absolutely guaranteed to win. In Galopin des Champs, we saw Constitution Hill open with a mesmeric performance in the Supreme, and I said I don't think I'll live long enough to see a better novice hurdle performance anywhere, let alone Cheltenham.
You never know.
You know,
You never know, mate. With the Franklin of the Jumps they're calling him. Well, we were lucky enough to beam into Pat Cooney last Friday. That show was really well received because we did a review of pretty much all the days, but we don't need to go there. It's 2023 now. We'll start again, of course, in November, maybe even earlier. Who knows, the appetite is insatiable. Plenty of jumps still to come back, but we'll switch our attentions to Doncaster now. Welcome along.
Yeah, good to be here, and the flat is back, isn't it? I've always preferred the turf flat season, but I've had to go on a bit of a refresher course this last week. I've been looking at classic prices thinking, nope, can't remember that one. Even the guineas took me about half an hour to figure out who trained what, so hopefully I'm up to speed at this stage.
Oh, no doubt you will be, and of course they're all priced up, aren't they? So look,
yeah.
It's a bit of a guessing headache, isn't it? But we've got some of the best minds in the business to point you in the way of some winners. We will be looking at big race previews for you. 3:35 is the Lincoln then. Who's the group horse in that? Are you looking at somewhere different? We'll be doing that as a big race preview alongside three others at Doncaster. We're going to get some real help as well. Top trainer, classic winning trainer William Haggis beams in from Dubai for an interview. Top stuff that is, I can tell you. And he's got runners at Meydan as well. Myself and Pat, not Kills, will be giving you a Meydan wrap before the naps. Okay, right. Well, you were probably expecting to go into Meydan and in the Palace and see William Haggis talking to us about all his runners going forward and ahead. Unfortunately, I've got to tell you that the connection was pretty tricky, and more to the point, it's been a tricky couple of days over there for William and the team. Unfortunately, his run at Grosser Jack in the Dubai World Cup had to be scratched very late. He's got a soft tissue injury. And breaking news is that Adam Farraha, unfortunately, had an accident on the gallops. Now, he was supposed to be riding the big anti-post plunge, Mutajba, in the Lincoln. William was literally in the middle of putting out some fires, but he was very kind and gave us a word. So look, while this isn't Mr. Haggis coming on beaming into you, he did have some interesting things to say, and we thought here on What a Shout we would give them across to you. First of all, Mujtaba wants all the dig he can get, and they're now scrambling around for a jockey. That's going to be fun and games, as you can imagine, for all the agents out there. It's a plum ride. However, he does think that his other two are by no means back markers. They'll both want the drying ground. And Amethyst, third in the Cambridgeshire, of course, last year, would probably be the pick of the two. So interesting scenes. If you're on the anti-post plunge for Mujtaba, perhaps not the good thing you might have been expecting. Before that, in the 3 o'clock, the Doncaster Mile, I did sense a bit of excitement about how Busala is going to get on against Chindit. He expects Archie Watson to go on. He hopes it's not a silly race, but first time up to a mile, you sense when Mr. Haggis tells you that he's got an improver in his yard, Busala might just be it. Of his Saturday runners at Donny, I would point you towards the way of that one and maybe having a little tickle on it. Of his runners in Maidan, I'm laughing because I sent him our spotlights and he went, they didn't give me much chance, did they? So Ron Wood, perhaps on the back bench there. But you have got a feeling when you speak to William and connections that Mahafeth in the 320, the turf, has definitely got more to come. There you are. That is the word from Mr. Haggis. I also spoke to him about Baid. Perhaps I'll save that and get William back on in a couple of weeks. But just to tease you with that one, the unbeaten, brilliant Baid might just be stepping up in trip in 2022. Let's head up to the town more then for the first of a couple of massive race previews for you. Yes, flat fans, it's the 150. It's the Cammage. I said the Cammage.
Not the cabbage.
Not the Cabbage Trophy. This is, well, we might not have a July Cup winner in this. This is the start of what is now a very good sprint series. I'm looking at you and I'm trying not to laugh because we've had so much Cheltenham in our mind. We've got the Aintree, we've got the Scottish Dash, it's all to come, but we must concentrate now on the flat stars. There are a couple of pretty good sprinters in here. Which one caught your eye?
Yeah, well, earlier in the week, I mean, I think, we're all sort of guessing to a certain extent, aren't we? Because we don't know the fitness and whatever. But I think bookmakers were caught on the hop because Gareth was quoted at 5-1 anti-post when there was only about a dozen 5-day entries, so it's a small field anyway. And he's got the highest rating in the race. He's unpenalised for winning a Group 3 at Deauville 2 days before the penalties would have kicked in, and he's got a really good record fresh as well. He's won off a break of 575 days, but he's also won off 50 and 160 odd. So he's got everything in his favour, I think, and I think he's the right favourite now. Would I back him at 13.08? I'm not sure.
Yes,
because he's that sort of price now. But I mean, when he was a bigger price earlier in the week.
Well, that's an interesting summation because I think you probably looked at it. Look, flat fans, if you're out there, you looked at it at the start of Paul's preview there. You're all thinking, well, that was a silly price, wasn't it? On figures, if he turns up with this likely field, it's his to lose. However, now you're right. He does look a bit skinny because you've got a horse like Diligent Harry in there, who forget the Ascot run. You're happy to do that on Champions Day.
Of course,
he's got some top form, and he might just be able to step up.
Form is very close. It's very close. He's a younger horse. He could be improving. He's the definite danger. I mean, I think unless there are serious fitness issues, it ought to be between those two because they've got a bit of a break on the others in terms of ratings.
We've got Bielsa in there as well. Just another bottle. It's long season ahead, isn't it?
Yeah, I just think Bielsa tends to be, later in the season, doesn't it? Does he not? So. And he does have that little bit to find.
He's the one that we never see again. Here we go. It's all ding ding. We're at it again. All change. I never got Bielsa right last year, and he's I love the horse.
Yeah, no, I never got him right either.
Here we go again.
I love sprinters. Mondamedge is in there.
Oh no!
I never got him right last year.
We've even mentioned him all through the winter, haven't we? We couldn't get rid of him.
Yeah, I mean, he is fast ground, 5 furlong, really fast pace. So he's got 6 ground. The ground's not that fast. It's good as soft. Probably be goodish on the day, and the extra furlong, which he does stay, but I think he's better at a really hard run 5.
So small stakes, you'll look to see how the market goes, because this is not the weekend to be going silly kills.
Yeah, I wouldn't be going silly on short horses. I mean, I have to do a banker for every Saturday, and I put him down as the banker because he was a slightly bigger price and chinned it later on. So, that was it. But I don't bet like that.
Yeah, all right, there you go. This is what you get on this show, free premium content, tealsed by the Keels from the Saturday Sizzler himself. Great stuff. Pat, help us out with the market, man. I think that Diligent Harry might be a little bit more ready than Gareth, but Keels seeing the ball bigger.
Yeah, I think it's interesting at the start of the year. You probably think what we laid during the week is going to be a big clue as to how the market's going to shape up for the rest of the week. And we just laid two to the exclusion of the others, and they are the big two, Gareth and Diligent Harry. And as Keel says, Gareth's record fresh is very good. He's won first time out for the last 2 years. Charlie Hill sprinter, it ticks a lot of boxes, doesn't it? Diligent Harry has also been popular. Someone said to me, he might be better on the all-weather than the turf. I'm not sure that's necessarily the case. And there is that separation between those two and the rest. So if you want to get with the ones that were hot during the week, well, they're there at the front of the market, Gareth and Diligent Harry, and they're going to stay there, really. Bielsa, I seem to end up backing him every single run he's had in his entire career. I'm going to try and go a season without backing him this time around. But he is 7 and he's a good horse on his day. But like that, he might just be a better horse, Gold Cups and so forth. So I think Gareth, Diligent Harry, if you follow the money, they'll finish in betting order. All
right, there we are then. That's who's been hot and who's been not. We'll pull Pat Cooney up on that comment. He's not backing Bielsa in 2022. 225. Yes, believe it or not, it is the Spring Mile. Now, we spoke to William Haggis about this and exactly what the problem is. 9 runners in a Spring Mile. What on earth is going on, Paul Kealy?
Well, we have been plagued by small fields throughout the last jump season, and it's not looking good for the flat if this is the way it is. We've actually got the smallest field for the cabbage in the last 10 years, the joint smallest in the Doncaster Mile, and the smallest field ever for the Spring Mile. The Lincoln bottom weight would have missed the cut last year by £10. So,
what?
Where are all the horses going? I mean,
Madness,
they talk about them going abroad, etc., for better prize money. But we've got there are lots of these big handicaps that have consolation races, and we might need to rethink them if this is what was getting. I mean, this was supposed to have a minimum of 10 runners, or it wouldn't be run, but they're running it anyway. It's not good.
No, because, look, we've been running stories since the deck saying that Doncaster will still do it. And, if you've just come out from a coma or something, you've gone, what on earth's going on, aren't you?
Yeah.
So there is obviously problems. Look, no problems with the ground. Shouldn't be any excuses for the ground.
No,
You'd think they'd be bursting to run these horses.
Imagine what happened if it was chucking it down with rain overnight and we got the non-runners to go in. There were 5 runners Spring Mile or something like that. You know what I mean? It is what it is, though. You know.
I have found one in it, though, for the same time.
How many have you found?
Mostawa.
Right, okay.
Under the new Sylvester de Souza, because no Shadwell association for Sylvester. He's going for it, isn't he?
Yeah.
And the last time he did that, he had winners all over the place. I backed this chap in the race last year when he was just touched off from a £6 higher mark. He's had a run on the all-weather, Heather Main's horse, so I'm surprised he's not shorter in the market. You?
You can see, I can see him. He was one of the ones I considered. I went for another one of the older horses, Star Shield, who's just been really, really consistent on the all-weather. I mean, I'm not saying I don't follow all-weather racing, but I can read the form, and he's run pretty well throughout the autumn and winter, and therefore has a race fitness advantage over some of the younger horses. But you can understand why the younger horses are at the head of the market. Empire State of Mind, for instance, hasn't been out the first 2 in the last 6 starts last season, but they are coming off a break. You don't know their state of readiness, and we do know that Star Shield is fit. And he's been 1st and 4th in his 2 previous starts at Doncaster.
I was going to add he's got Donny form.
Yeah,
which is important, isn't it? So we like the Donny form, Pat. The 2 younger progressive horses, if you like, consistent ones, generally add in there. They wear a bit of headgear. I'm not sure about them. What do you make of this field size as well, being a bookmaker?
Well, absolutely. I remember a few years ago when we had the Bunbury Cup, we had the Consolation Bunbury Cup, and there was only 7 runners, and Richard Fahey had the 1st and 2nd that day, and with 5 minutes to go at the declaration stage, there were only 2 runners in the race, and he thought, well, I'll run my 2, and he had the 1st and 2nd, and that was very, very demoralising. I think we ended up putting the race as the last race on the card, and we thought, well, we're not doing this ever again, and that seems to be a common theme. 9 is amazing, isn't it? You have to get out of your head, this is a Class 2, because you look at the horses and you think, well, their form is in Class 4 company, now they're in a Class 2, but just judge them on their own 9. It's still a tricky competitive handicap, but it's still disappointing for everyone concerned, really. I look at Empire State of Mind. Again, he's got that solid-looking profile, but I give John Quinn a lot of credit. This one horse fella won up at 62 last year, and he ended up getting beat narrowly off 82. So he's improved £20 last year, and I presume he'll improve again this year. Generally, Oliver Cole, good friend of the show, when this fella won at Goodwood, said he loved the fast ground that day. So keep an eye on the weather for that one. Good to soft at the moment. The ground might not be ideal. And like yourself a bit, Mustawa was the one that appealed at prices to me. Sylvester in the plate. And given that he was placing this a year ago, I would imagine they've penciled in this day in the calendar as the day to get him cherry ripe. But Empire State of Mind, probably going to be the best horse in a month's time. But as of now, Mustawa for me with SDS aboard.
There you go. All right, 225. It is the Spring Mile. Usually we're talking about it as in, all sorts of hints for the link and all that sort of stuff. We're talking more about politics, would you believe it? Let us know what you think. Get your comments in below. Who wants a bit of Maidan action then? Yes, it's come up quite quickly, but it has happened on Lincoln Day before. It is the Dubai World Cup meeting. Are you going to have a bet?
I don't know. I mean...
You don't like the meeting, do you? Let's get it out of the way.
I don't like dirt racing.
What's the saying? Broke well.
Fast away, rails always led.
And he's born at, he'll tweet that at about 3 o'clock and he'll be right.
It'll be 12:20, it'll be the first race. I always do that for a joke. But I mean, no, the thing is, we did this really good series on professional punters this week.
Yeah, great.
Right? And what do they say? You've got to specialise. Now, I've got to cover an awful lot of horses in Britain and Ireland, and that's enough for me. So I don't watch it.
You blew me away with your Lincoln preview, man. We're just talking about Cheltenham.
Exactly. You've got to put the work in, haven't you? Like, you know what I mean? It's simple. Every single one of those posts just said you cannot tell you how hard they work, right, to do it. So, if you cover too much, you're doing it. You're spreading yourself too thinly. You're not doing the job properly. And I don't want to be tipping horses to people when I haven't done the job properly.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I didn't even know it was taking place until I saw the running order for this show.
So shall we give you some help then?
And then I looked at the favourites for the big one, the Dubai World Cup, is that what it's called? Yeah. And I've never heard of either of them.
It is called the Dubai World Cup,
So I've never heard of either of them. So I'm not going to stand here and tell people to have a bet.
No, okay. There'll be a lot of people out there like that. However, Pat Cooney, thank goodness we have got the specialist of specialists. And Ron Wood, our Spotlight Supremo, work of art, people call Ron's work. He starts on Tuesday. He knows absolutely everything about it. He's been doing it since November. He's given us 4. And Pat, perhaps you can come in here because you love your American racing. But we're going to start in the 210, which is the UAE Derby. Give us a price, please, on Gilded Age.
Well, Gilded Age is a 10-1 chance at the moment, and we are paying first 4 places on the race. We have a favourite, Pinehurst, trained by Bob Baffert. He's a familiar name to us. Flavien Prat, the French jockey who's doing ever so well in America, is out there. But yeah, as for Onward, this is a specialist subject this weekend, and he is the main man, and he's not afraid of putting horses up at double-figure prices. So whatever he goes for, we'll put the graphic up a bit later. You're well worth having a lucky 15. You'd kick yourself if they all copped.
Yeah, 245 in the Golden Shaheen then, the sprint. Ron Basey sent me nice bit. Sorry, I'm using my phone for this because, again, like Keels, I'm having to get my head around it. 5 of the 6 have gone to US Train. I think he might nap Drain the Clock, Pat. I think he's really quite keen on this one.
Drain the Clock, yeah, and he sits there as a 9-2 chance behind a horse called Dr. Cheval. And Drain the Clock, he was beaten last time over 7. They tried to stretch him out to win a grade 1 in America. Doesn't stay 7. This is more his cup of tea tomorrow. I see plenty of wisdom in that. There's a good spread of runners in the race, really, lots of them from other countries and so on. But he'd be a solid option back in trip once again.
I've heard of a horse in this, Miras. He used to be trained by Mark Johnston. I backed him in the Stewards Cup.
Yeah, here he is. We're getting. I knew he'd have a bet.
Apparently, he's improved out of all recognition for dirt.
Okay, there you go. That's what. Yeah, so you'll start to see Ron's spotlights trickling in, and even Kills is getting. Now in the 320, the Dubai Turf, Williams got runners in this, of course. But Ron thinks that the brilliantly named Schnellmeister will be taking it out for Japan.
Yeah, and Schnellmeister, there is a theme in recent years, that when we started pricing up these Dubai Cups, when it got really popular about 5 years ago, we said, look, just worry about the English horses. And they're only going to want to back the English-trained horses. They'll back the American sprinters, they'll back the rest of the card in English. But the tide has turned a bit now. Punters want to get with the Japanese horses. They're used to a similar surface. They've proven they can travel in winning Breeders' Cups. And you look at Schnellmeister, he's got legitimate grade 1 form in his homeland, and he's a solid 2-1 chance. And again, you got a horse like Lord North, Frankie Dettori, we know everything about him. Highly rated horse, solid chance. but the money horse has definitely been with the Schnell.
The Schnell, happy days at 3:20 then, in between the Doncaster Mile and the Lincoln. You can get involved with that if you want. And then at 4:30, when the curtains come down pretty much at Donny, we have got the biggie, the Dubai World Cup. And there is a brilliant horse in this, Pat Cooney, called Life is Good. But Hot Rod Charlie, who should just get the stalking trip, that's the one Ron's opposing him with.
Yeah, I was intrigued by that. I think Life is Good has a legitimate claim to be the highest rated horse in the whole wide world. And his only defeat, was I think they dropped him down to 7 furlongs and he got chinned by a real machine over 7. He was brilliant over 8, brilliant over 9. He's in stall 1. He got the great Irad Ortiz Jr. on him. The only reason you can maybe get him beat, he's not gone over 10 furlongs before, and he is a free-going front runner. So the connections have said they're not going to change the tactics. No point holding him up. They're going to bowl him along in front and hope he gets the trip. So if you're hoping rather than expecting, maybe that's the reason to get him beat. And maybe that's where the Hot Rod Charlie fans come into play. But it's hard to see beyond those two, really.
So, to remind you, here they come on screen. 2:10 in the UAE Derby. It is Gilded Age. The race later, that is the Golden Shaheen. It's the burn up on the dirt. And he does think that Drain the Clock will smash the clock. In the 3:20, that's the turf. Schnellmeister for Japan. The excellent Christophe Lemaire, says Ron. But he's taking on the brilliant Life is Good with the Hot Rod Charlie. And thanks to Ron for giving us his top 4. Like I said, I think he might be going for the Golden Shaheen as a nap, if I had to guess now. But Pat Cooney loves it. I don't mind it. He can't stand it. But he's going to back Miras.
I bet Miras. Saffron Beach, I heard of that one as well.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, he's in. He's in.
That'll win. He's in.
That'll win.
There is your Maidan wrap. 3 o'clock at Donny. Who wants some listed action? There is a very interesting horse in here. And this is usually a small field, isn't it? We're not going to go crazy about this.
You never get that many runners in this race. So
yeah. Have we got just a complete standout here in Chindit?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is when you took 2 bookmakers getting caught on the hop, one firm went 5-2 anti-post, and I was busy trying to load up my account. It disappeared before I could press the buttons, unfortunately. And but I should have taken the 13-8. I mean, I think he's 8-11 now. I think he's a 2-5 chance.
Wow.
Official rating 112 on official figures. The second favourite world champion's got £12 to find. On Racing Post rating, he's got £22 to find, and he's second fav. No, he was obviously highly rated last year, second and third in the Fielding, which worked out really well, and then well beaten in a Derby trial afterwards. But he's got a hell of a lot to prove, and. Boo Sala's form doesn't, he's the second best in the race on the figures, but he's got a lot to find. And then you look at Chindit's profile, he's 2 from 2 first time out, he's 2 from 2 at Doncaster. He might not stay a mile in top company, but the form he's shown in that top company is an awful lot better than the others in this field.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is his to lose, surely.
You'd imagine the variant horse will probably, because it's, maybe look like it might want to stretch out a bit, that might lead, and he just got to sit on the, you forget he's a champagne when he probably struggled a bit at 3, didn't he? And
yeah, but I mean, he still didn't run badly. I mean, he was 5th in the Guineas, he was 5th in the Jacques Le Marat.
And when you start off in a Guineas, Kills, if you don't like the undulating tracks, it sort of puts you off kilter a bit, doesn't it?
He's not really an undulating track horse either, but he's only beaten 2.5 lengths or whatever it was. So he wasn't beaten far.
The lure of the Guineas, almost like we didn't see the real Chindit because of that, I think. But listen, we were expecting him to bounce back. Just wins.
Yeah, I just think he'd win easily, and I think 8-11 still a bit of a gift.
There you go. Don't often hear Kills saying that, do you, Pat Cooney?
No, and I agree with him. It just looks pretty straightforward for Chindit, really. I don't think any of the other 3 rivals could have put together his bodywork that he did last year, even in defeat. I mean, he got beaten his last 6 races, but, he was being beaten 3 lengths by Palace Pier, 5 lengths by Poetic Flair. It all reads pretty good, doesn't it, in the context of Saturday's race? And the race should set up well for him. He can just sit behind. There is that slight, is he better over 7 than 8? But we won't find that out tomorrow. I would imagine it'd be pretty plain sailing. I can imagine the market getting a little bit with Royal Champion because Roger Varian's won this, I think, 3 times before. They've all been very well backed, those 3 runners, though. But I just think Chindit, he's got £8 and beyond in hand. The race is going to be run to suit him, and he won the Greenham first time out last year. I don't really like advertising odds-on favourites, but he's going to be tough to beat, isn't he? I think he'll win. Yeah, we're all looking at it in the same way then. Chindit to land the knockout blow. 3:35. It is the first leg of the spring double. It's the Lincoln. I absolutely love this race. In around about the last decade, we have seen it go.
towards group performers more often than not. Who remembers Dave, of course, winning for William Haggis not that long ago. He bids Pat Cooney to become the leading trainer of this race. And it's fair to say he's having a good go.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do look at this race, as indeed I did on Sunday morning, and I was thinking, wow, these front three in the market look dreadfully short prices to me. And if it is going to be a max field of 22, well, the punters can have those three at the top. We'll have the other 19. Thank you very much. But then you look at it and you think, well, hang on a minute, our 19 are actually pretty ropey, really. And these, the top three in the market, they've all got that sexy profile, progressive 4-year-olds, all in their 90s, all just like the last three winners, who all look pretty short in the market that day as well. So I think times are changing with this Lincoln, you know. I think people are getting with the, dare I say, group horse in handicaps, and that's what the market seems to be. But now they are drawn 2, 3, and 8. Mujtaba 2, Modern News 8, Sally M 3. We haven't got a conclusive test before then to say, oh, hang on a minute, they're all gone that side, one side or t'other. I don't know. We're first 6 places on the race, and I think that's quite a tactical thing, because you could certainly see these 3 horses not being an each way price, but filling 3 of the places. Just a tough race. It's confused as well, because Jason Watson rides Darkness, who's drawn 20, and he was happy to be drawn 20. And then I can lob in Rogue Bear, who's been money for that first thing this morning on Friday as we record. He's drawn 19. He's 20 into 14. Confusing. I'm going to back Amethyst each way, on the basis he was third in the Cambridgeshire, off a couple of pounds lower. And if he was third in the Cambridgeshire, I could see him being in the first 6 in a Lincoln. But if you're on at the fancy prices, the front 3, you're in that group horse in a handicap bracket.
I'm completely agreeing with you, Pat, actually. I think both the other Haggis horses are interesting. When I saw the draw 1 for Irish Admiral, I know they are a bit happier with. Do you remember when we had him on last year, William? He told us he was going to be the travelling companion for a Dave.
Yeah.
And it all just went a bit wrong, didn't it? But you have to think, when Stall 1 came out, Stevie Donohoe, our old mate of the show, he probably would have been a bit disappointed with that. The draw is interesting, but finally we have a proper betting race.
Well, you do have a proper betting race, and I wouldn't get too bogged down by the draw. Now, there hasn't been a single figure winner since 2013, but there have been 5 runners-up in the last 10 years from single figures, including Stall 2 and 1, I think. Like, you know, so it's no big deal. The last 3 winners would have won from anywhere, because they were so well handicapped. In 2017, when Bravery won it, he won from stall 20 but finished up on the far rail. And in 2014, when Ocean Tempest won it from stall 3, finished up on the stands rail.
Yeah.
So, I mean, pretty much anything can happen. I mean, the one thing they have done in recent seasons is they've stayed away from the far rail, but they've come down the centre and low-drawn horses have run really well.
So the key is with Stevie Donohoe, isn't it, really, if you're on Mujtaba, which loads of people are, because he's been back. And William was a little bit disappointed with him in his first couple of starts. Then at Redcar, he thought, OK, now we might have something.
He looked good at Redcar. It was only a Class 3 handicap.
Of course.
I think it's worked out OK.
And you usually have to tick the big field experience, don't you, in a Lincoln? You know, even a Hakiki, the very well handicapped, he'd run in big fields.
I mean, he'd be, you know, I think he'd be the light, you know, if he wins it, he'd be the lightest raced winner that Haggis has won the race with.
And there are reasons to take him on, obviously, then at the price, aren't there? So if you're not on already, where are we going?
I mean, price is your sole reason, and I just, you know, for me, they're all too short. I mean, we're talking about, you know, 3 horses that could be group horses. But there's a horse in the race that's been campaigned as a group horse all his life. He runs off a lower mark and he's a much bigger price. And he's trained by David O'Mara, who has a cracking record in this race. He may only have won it once with Bravery. That was first start, having joined him from Aidan O'Brien. But he's had at least one horse in the frame all by 1 year since 2014. And one of those was Mondialiste, who had group form in France, got beaten a neck, giving £5 to Gabriel, who was second in the QE2 by the end of the season.
Now a sire Mondialiste, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Now a sire as well. I think he might have a runner in the Brocklesby, actually. But yeah, I mean, you know, so he went very close on his British debut, and Darkness has come over from France. He won a listed race at 2. He ran in the Grand Criterium, Group 1, only got beat 6 lengths, 5th or 6th. You know, ran reasonably well in group races, comes here with a mark of 95, first time gelded. He was actually picked up by Jason Kelly, who's assistant trainer, in July last year.
You've done your own work on this, haven't you?
A long while. Yeah, well, I was looking, I thought I've got something here. Right? And I was looking on Monday, and I thought I'm going to back this on Tuesday morning. And by the time I got up on Tuesday morning, all the prices had gone. I was looking around to see if anybody else influential had tipped him, and of course nobody has. So I mean, that strikes me as that the right people are backing him, which always helps. But I mean, he's a horse who's running in group races, running off a mark of 95 with a trainer who likes to get one ready for this. I think he's gonna have a massive chance.
And you've got a double figure draw, haven't you? So he's high.
Yeah, exactly. But I have backed it. I put 2 up in the weekend. The other one was Notre Belle Bet.
Well done.
It was a very hard one to say. And I think Will run well under a penalty because I thought he did well to chase down Baldemero at Wolverhampton in the trial.
Yeah, he had to work hard there.
I didn't want to have 2 horses on the same side on the day, so I've jumped onto an outsider who is drawn amongst, because all the big 3 in the betting are all drawn low, as we've said, and that is Tia Delina for Richard Hannon. And I think a horse that went off at just 12-1 for Sandringham at Royal Ascot is trading at 33 and bigger for a Lincoln, and she didn't run well then, but she was actually first of the 4 she raced with for most of the way, and the ground was really heavy, and I don't think she's a proper heavy ground horse, but she did win first time up in a straight course handicap at Ascot last season, and then finished 3rd on heavy ground at Haydock in the Silver Cup when she ran into a remarkable amount of trouble given they come down the centre. Her effort was petering out. I don't know whether she just didn't quite get home when the ground is that bad. I mean, it was the time was almost a furlong slow that day. So
you got the bases covered.
I got the bases covered, I think. But I think she was progressive until she ran in the Sandringham, and she's a massive price for a filly that wouldn't have got in. The last time my horse was low as 90 got in the race, it won it. That was Levitate, I think. You know what I mean? So, we look at last year; it was so competitive. There was a £6 weight range between top and bottom. I think it's £22 this year.
Yeah. Like the old school races.
Yeah, like the old school races. So have a look at all of them.
Yeah.
I just thought Tia Delina was a big price, but I do fancy Darkness to run really, really well, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets ever shorter in the betting than he is now.
There you go. All right, perhaps a steamer then for Mr. Lincoln himself, David O'Mara. But William Haggis will one of his 3 triumph. Let us know. Get your selections. Well, you've heard it all. Now it's time for the weekend winners. All important it is. Paul Kealy, knock it out the park or back on the flat.
Yeah, I have a feeling Darkness is going to run a massive race in the Lincoln.
Love it. In the Spring Mile, yes, it is the Spring Mile at 2:25. I think Mustawa has got a right old chance under SDS. Pat Cooney, the 3-timer, please.
Yeah, Kempton 355, Royal Crusade of Charlie Appleby. He's a bigger fish to fry, maybe in Maidan. But Royal Crusade, he won over the course and distance. He won by 2.5 lengths. Now, you're supposed to go £3 a length, aren't you? So if you win by 2 and a bit, you should be going up 7. Unbelievably, he only went up 2. So that's £5 in hand. I'll take the £5 in hand, Royal Crusade. He should have gone up more for that win.
Lovely stuff. All right, there you go. 3 weekend winners coming your way. Well, sadly, that's all we've got time for here on this weekend's What a Shout. All change, ring the bell. Paul Kealy, great to have you back. And honestly, how you get your head around it like that, I really don't know, but fair play to you, man.
Well, you just got to put the time in, haven't you? Something like that. I've got nothing else to do.
No, quite right. And you're just about to go off on holiday, Keels?
No, we got a few of the RP boys. We got a 3-day break from Thursday for a bit of golf.
SOS Portugal.
Yes, bit of golf. I tell you what, you play golf, you're so tired after having a round of golf, if you're unfit like I am, you don't really go out on the owl afterwards.
Yeah.
So
He's probably hoping someone are watching for the handicap.
It'll be very genteel from my side of it anyway.
We heard that about Cheltenham as well, Kills. Great to have Paul Kealy back. You'll see plenty of him more on the flat season coming up, as you will, Pat Cooney. Coming into the office next week, Pat Cooney, for the Scottish National.
Yes, looking forward to it. I won't be like Keels. If I ever play golf, I just sit in the 19th hole having a glass of wine, watching it all. So, hopefully I'll be in the studio next week. Looking forward to it.
Amen, corner. Absolutely. Thank you to you for watching then. Thanks to the guys in the gallery for producing. Don't forget to download the free must-have Racing Post app. You can do that on the App Store or the Google Play itself. Don't forget, gamble responsibly. This is not a weekend of all the weekends to be going silly. Wherever you are, whatever you're watching, whether it be it still jumps or indeed in Maidan, enjoy the sport.